Greetings, Cap fans. Welcome to episode 252 of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast. I'm Rick Verbanis, and I'm your host. I've got a co-host. He's pretty darn good. His name's Bob Lucius. Oh, Bob, if you don't watch the violence, you'll never get desensitized to it.
Well, that's probably true. That's probably I have no idea where that's from though.
No?
No.
What if I gave you a few other
Okay.
quotes
All right.
famous by this person?
We're gonna play Stump the Chump. All right, let's go.
All right.
I'm the chump for you.
No. I think you'll get this.
All right.
Ready?
Okay.
I didn't do it.
And Richard Nixon.
How about eat my shorts?
Oh, Bart Simpson.
Cowabunga.
All right. Well, that was
Yeah.
easier than I expected.
Yeah. So, if you don't watch the violence, you'll never get desensitized to it. That was from season 3, episode 20,
Wow.
which came out in 1992.
That's 1992.
Yeah.
That was like what 10 years ago.
Right? uh, yeah, sure, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
But anyway, Bob, why am I greeting you with a Simpsons quote?
Well, because if I'm not mistaken, Rick, we are going to talk to another of the Bart family tonight. There's not a lot of Barts out there, right? Black Bart, Bart Simpson. I work for a guy named Bart Gentry. That's it. There's just 3 other ones, and then there's of course Bart Sears.
Bart Sears, absolutely, yeah. So Bart Sears is our special guest today. He is a legendary artist who's been around for over 10 years if we go back to the
Right,
80s, right?
Yeah.
And he's joining the show today. You might, Cap fans, you may know him from his work with Christopher Priest on Captain America and the Falcon about 20 some years ago. And so we're going to have him on to talk about that, but also, of course, his really long established and incredible career.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he's done so much, and so many other creative personalities have really learned from him. So he's got a reputation as a teacher and a mentor as well.
Yeah, indeed. Can't wait to have him on. And speaking of interviews, if you're new to the show and you want to check out our interviews, a real easy way to do that. 2 ways, really. You can go to our YouTube channel, which there's a link in the show notes, and we have things set up in different categories, and you can just go to the interview ones. But another, and perhaps maybe even easier way, is to go to our website, and that is CaptainAmericaComicBookFans.com, and then go /category/interview. And then there you will see dozens and dozens of interviews that we've had with comic creators and legends over the last 5 years. Most recently, you'll see episode 247 with Chip Zdarsky, 243 with Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly, 234 with Alana Smith, 230 with Carl Kessel, and it just goes on and on and on.
On and on.
Yeah. So make sure you check those out.
It really is a who's who, Rick, of Captain America creative talent.
Yeah, we've been very lucky to have these guests come on the show. So it's just one of the many different types of episodes that we do, right? Because we do panel by panel dramas, we do various specials, we do recaps, we have our listeners on the show. So it's just part of the repertoire that is Captain America comic book fans.
Right. It's a fantastic repertoire.
Speaking of fantastic, Bob, did you see the movie?
I certainly did, Rick. Yeah, I went to see it opening night. I couldn't wait.
Oh yeah, and did you take the whole family?
I did not. I did not. I went quite late, so certainly it was well after my wife was in bed, and my son had to work that night, and so he was not in the mood to go out to the movies that night. So I had to go solo.
And so, how packed was the theater at that time of night?
There were 4 people.
Yeah. Yeah, we saw it Friday night. My wife and my son went. My daughter couldn't make it, so the three of us went, and it was a small theater because they had it like every 45 minutes. You
Oh
know, it's one of those
wow,
big
yeah,
theaters, right?
yeah,
And so the theater we in we only had maybe 50 seats, and it was
yeah,
probably half full.
huh? Yeah,
So I don't feel like we got the full energy that you
right,
get,
yeah,
because
yeah,
I hear of people going, "Oh, we clapped at the end," or
right,
there was laughter at this, laughter that. Um, all right, before I give my thoughts,
yeah,
tell me, high
yeah.
level, no spoilers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I loved it, Rick. I mean, I really did enjoy it. I mean, we talked a bit, I think, offline about another big superhero film that came out just recently, Superman on the DC side, and of course, Thunderbolts just what a couple months ago. And I really enjoyed Superman. But I didn't feel like I loved it. But I really enjoyed this movie, and I think the difference was I haven't read a lot of Fantastic Four stuff, right? So I'm not like a huge Fantastic Four fan. So I didn't have expectations when I went into the movie. And I think that helps a lot, quite frankly, because I did when I went into Superman, because I grew
Mm.
up watching, the original Christopher Reeve movies. So going into a movie without expectations, man, I really enjoyed it, and I mean, I enjoyed learning about the characters because I didn't know that much about them. I enjoyed this new interpretation because I've seen the previous ones, and it was just a beautiful movie. I mean, it takes place in the '60s on an alternate Earth, and but just the visuals, there was something to look at in every corner, even as the action was going on.
It definitely was a beautiful movie. I had a 60s feel to it. I don't know if it ever came out and said that. Did it?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah,
But it definitely because of the hairstyle and the
the fashion.
clothing.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The TVs, right?
right.
Definitely had that feel, but it also had a futuristic feel too, because of some of the things that were happening in the movie. Which,
Technology, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There was so many different things to like about the movie.
Hmm.
I think overall I liked the movie. I didn't love the movie.
Yeah.
I there are so many different things I did really enjoy about the movie. I thought you know the the focus on family was really important.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of scenes that were really intense that we hadn't seen before in an MCU movie. Um, Loved the fact that they brought Herbie into it, and
Yeah.
they referenced a lot of villains. I thought I mean, listen. There's no surprise. Galactus is in this,
Oh,
and
spoiler.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they did an amazing job with Galactus. I thought um, Kirby was fantastic as Sue Storms,
Hmm. She
or
was.
I guess she
Yeah.
was in this movie Sue Richards.
Yeah.
Um, and I thought she was really good. The rest of the casting, I don't know.
Yeah.
Me, my wife, and my son, we none of us felt emotionally connected with any of the characters, and I don't
Hmm.
know if it was because of the writing or if it was the acting. Um, so I really liked it. I'm glad I saw it in the theater.
Hmm.
I wish I was in a theater with 100 people because I didn't hear any laughs. I didn't
Yeah.
hear any gasps. I didn't hear any cheers in my theater, and I think maybe that was missing part
Yeah.
of it for me. I
Yeah.
don't know.
That experience, right? Because you could just as easily be at home on the couch, I guess, if you don't have all that, the other people in there feeding that energy. I think it is one of those movies I think that does bear watching again. And so, just like when I saw a Brave New World a second time, I think I appreciated it a little bit more. I certainly watched Thunderbolts a second and third time, appreciated it a little bit more, saw things maybe I didn't see before, or even heard lines that I hadn't heard before. So I'm looking for. I am going to take my boy to go see it when we get a chance, and I'm interested to see like if it hits me differently the second time around.
Hmm. Yeah. All right. Maybe. And as for Superman, my wife and I really enjoyed Superman. I'd
Hmm.
say we probably enjoyed it a little bit more, and I think because there was a little bit more of an emotional connection with the characters, the main
Hmm.
characters in that movie. And I'm not a Superman fan or a Fantastic Four fan. I don't really read any of those comics. The characters don't interest me, so there's no bias here.
Right. Yeah.
In fact, I do read and enjoy Marvel a lot more, so I would think that I would like Fantastic Four more for that reason.
Yeah.
But I think both movies were well worth seeing in the theater.
Yeah. And definitely, as always, stick around for those mid trailer, end trailer credit scenes.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Are you one of those people who looks that up ahead of time, or sometimes I'm just sitting there during previews and I'm looking up, I'm like, is there, or is there a end credit scene here?
Yeah.
And
I,
especially on the non MCU movies that are,
right.
comic book related or whatever.
Yeah, well, I don't. I just assume there will be at this point because there have been so many, and I would be crushed if there wasn't at this point. Especially if I waited to the end credit trailer or the end credit scene, right? And there wasn't one, I would be seriously PO'd.
I've
Uh,
done that a few times. I've
I,
sat through and been
have
like,
you?
there's
Yeah,
nothing there, and I'm
that's a
like,
terrible, terrible
ah,
feeling. But at least you missed the traffic, leaving the parking lot. Beat the rush.
always an
Beat the
optimist,
rush.
Bob. Always an
Right?
optimist.
Yeah, and I did. I got to admit, we've talked about this before. I think I absolutely love this new trend of popcorn buckets.
Are you paying $80 for a
No,
Galactus
I did not get
popcorn?
but I did get the Fantasticar because I just thought it was so darn cool.
Yeah.
So I got the
What's that
Van.
go for?
That was like I think at my theater it was like $40 for the Fantasticar.
Wow.
Yeah, and of course I didn't get the free popcorn that goes with
What
it.
is wrong with you?
I kept it in the bag, but it's so because it's so shiny. It's so shiny and beautiful, and but I love this. I think it's just such a neat way to commemorate these movies and the experience, and they're just kind of cool things, and I think it gives them an opportunity to be really creative in how they design these buckets. So I was as I carried my Fantasticar out to the car, I was like, "Can I take this out to my car and come back in?" They're like, "Yeah, just take it to the car, you old man loser. Yeah, just do it, right?" What is wrong with you? You're 50 something. What do you got a Fantasticar for? But anyway, I take it out and I was thinking to myself, man, like what would they have come up with for like the first Avenger or Civil War, Winter Soldier, any of these movies? Like what
Mm-hmm.
popcorn? They didn't have popcorn buckets back then for those
They would
movies.
have a Tesseract.
Right, a Tesseract, right? Or the Avengers movies, right? Like what would have been an Ultron head?
Yeah,
Just
100%.
I would
100%.
I love to just sort of sit and imagine what those buckets would have been.
Ah.
Maybe I need to get a hobby.
Yeah, it's like I can think of other things to sit and imagine about. But all right, that's
Yeah,
cool.
that's right.
You do you. You know what? I can't imagine keeping Bart Sears in the green room
Oh,
waiting any
right.
longer. So we should
Yeah,
probably let him out.
right. Indeed.
Our guest today is an American comic artist, toy and packaging designer, and author, known for his work on such books as Justice League Europe, Sabretooth, Exo Manowar, Turok, Spider Woman, Warlord, and dozens of other titles for Marvel, DC, Image, Valiant, CrossGen, and more. In addition to being an instructor at the Kubert School for Art, he has also helped aspiring artists with his Brutes and Babes articles in Wizard Magazine, which has been turned into a couple of books titled Drawing Powerful Heroes. He has also been in the gaming industry designing Cops, G.I. Joe, and WWF toys for Hasbro and X Men figures for Toy Biz. Cap fans know him from his Captain America and Falcon series from 2004 with writer Christopher Priest. We're excited to have Bart Sears join us today. Bart, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. It's great to be on.
Yeah, we it was I had the pleasure of meeting you at the OAX, which is the original art expo that Bill Cox and his team put on down in Orlando,
That was a great
and
show.
yeah, you had great stories and great piles of art on your table. I mean, we're talking stuff that went back to the 80s, the 90s, and so on, and I had so much fun just going through some art that you had there. So we're talking published art, we're talking preliminaries, we're talking sketches. It was really so cool to look through, and I got lucky and I picked up a piece as well.
You did, yeah. I've got tons of stuff. I even found a bunch more Captain America
Oh,
pencils
wow.
and roughs. Most of issue 4. I got tons of stuff.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, if we can get if you feel like you want to send a scan or something like that, we'll be happy to put it up so everybody can see it.
Cool. Yeah, I've got a Google file I can send you.
That'd be fantastic. Uh, and so, Bart, we obviously want to chat about your current and upcoming work, but before we do, let's talk a little bit about your earlier days. Now, did you grow up reading comics, and if so, did you have a
Yeah.
favorite?
Yeah, I had a brother who was 4 years older who liked comics, so there were always some comic books around and books and novels, and I read very early, and partly because I learned to read from comics, I think mostly, and my mom read to us constantly too, so we picked it up really quick. I mean, I think I was reading Tarzan at 6, novels, so I just loved all that pulp stuff, and the comic book stuff was, basically just drawn pulp stories. So I fell right into that, and I always loved drawing and sculpting with clay, and playing around like that as a kid. And when I was 10, I saw one of those DC super specials, one of those 80-page giants or whatever, and Neil Adams had drawn a story called, I think, Shadow of the Wolf or Night of the Wolf, and it was a Batman story with a werewolf, and I saw that, and that's when I decided that I had to draw comics. So I started actively teaching myself at 10 to draw comics.
Oh, wow. And you broke into DC Comics in 1988 as a penciler, and but within a few months, though, you became a regular penciler for the launch of Justice League Europe, which was a spinoff of the ultra hot JLI series at the time.
Yep.
How how did you get such a plum gig with hardly any experience?
Well, I actually broke into Marvel in '85 and got did 3 small jobs for them and realized that I was not ready to do comics. I couldn't do the work on deadline at the quality I liked. So I got into illustration and started working for TSR and doing GI Joe paintings for Hasbro. And then I worked at Hasbro for a year, and I designed all the Cops and Crooks figures.
So, can
And
I ask you a question about the paintings for GI Joe for
sure,
Hasbro? Are we talking those paintings that were on the action figure cards, or were they somewhere else?
no, they were internal paintings for presentation. What they would do every year is they design like 40 GI Joes or something, right? 40 different ideas. And they would have each one painted on a 12 by 18 or 18 by 16 board, whatever it was. And they would line all these paintings up in the presentation room, and the owners would walk around and say, "Make that one, make that one, make that one, make that one." So that's
Wow.
how they picked which GI Joes to make for every year of the toy. And I did a bunch of like 8 or 9 of those paintings for them before I was hired full time to start designing the toys. And I was hired to design GI Joes to help out on GI Joe. And I only designed 2 vehicle drivers before Cops came in. Like my third week of work, they handed me Cops and let me run with it, which was great. That was a lot of fun because initially they wanted it to just be 5-inch um, toys on the GI Joe buck, that skinny shouldered, you know the buck, and I was like, it's not going to work for this property. Why don't you let me, give them real heroic figures and all this stuff? And, let me design 3 different body types that we can use. And they were like, all right. So I got to design the bucks, which is the understructure that all the stuff is sculpted on that has the joints on it. So everything works.
Hmm.
So I got to design 3 new heroic bucks for Cops, which the engineers worked up. Just ran from there. So it was a pretty much fun-filled year. But DC was going to do the Cops comic adaptation, and Doug Wench and Andy Helfer came up. And the marketing director, Kirk Bazigian, who's a great guy. He knew I had done comics before and had done a lot of illustration and still wanted to get into comics. So he's like, why don't you come sit in a marketing meeting with these guys and bring your portfolio? Like, okay. So we got through talking about Cops, and Helfer turned to me and said, so Kirk says you want to draw comics. I'm like, yeah. He's like, all right, let me see what you got. So I showed him some stuff, and he's like, all right, I'll give you a call next week, do some work. He's like, but don't quit your job. So he called me the next week and offered me Cops number 4 comic to draw. And I said yes and went in and quit the next day, which was weird because it was a year to the day I was hired. I did my uh, had my exit interview a year to the day that I was had my start interview, whatever they call that, entry interview. It was
Hmm.
crazy. So I was actually there 1 full year. But then I did Cops 3 or Cops 4. And my second project at DC was Cops number 3 because Pat Broderick, who was penciling Cops, was still working on the first issue. I mean, I had the benefit because I knew what they all looked like. So I didn't have to really reference anything. But yeah, so then I got Spectre Monthly, and I had finished. There were 24-page stories. I had finished 6 pages on a Monday afternoon. I had just finished page 6, and Helfer called and said, "Hey, we need your help on Invasion." McFarlane's quit and he went to do Spider-Man, and we need you to do Invasion 3. He's going to draw number 2, and you're going to do 3 on all the covers. I'm like, great. He's like, okay, you got to come down Friday morning for a big meeting, kickoff meeting. Like, all right. He's like, hey, you got to bring pages in too. I'm like, yeah, I'll bring in, what I've got. He's like, no, I need all the pages. I'm like, there's 18 pages left. He's like, yeah. I'm like, I got to leave here at like 6 a.m. Friday morning to get to your offices by noon for the meeting or whatever time it was. He's like, yeah, like there's 18 pages. I have Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. That's 6 pages a day. He's like, yeah. So we argued like this for about a half hour, and finally I said, fine. And I banged out those last 18 pages over the 3 days and drove them in um, Friday morning, and they were awful, but they were done. And they handed me the first script for Invasion. And actually, I think the first thing they handed me was a little napkin. They had a little drawing on it of what the Invasion poster ended up being. It had the big head and the hand reaching and all the little people
Yeah, I
running and
remember. Yeah.
burning. And apparently, they were having drinks or something with Matt Groening, the guy that created The Simpsons.
Hmm.
And he designed the poster for him on a napkin. And so they said, here, draw this. I'm like, all right. So I think that was the first thing I did for Invasion, but that was kind of an odd way to
Yeah.
get into
Yeah.
comics. But
Talk about baptism by fire. 18, that many pages in 3 days. Wow.
it was awful. And I felt bad because Mark Pennington, who I went to the Kubert School with, and who actually went right from the Kubert School to design GI Joes for Hasbro, he hooked me up at Hasbro with first the freelance work, and then that got me the full time job. And so I got him as the monthly inker on Spectre. So it was his first pro gig, and then he had to ink 18 pages that I had penciled in 3 days. And, it wasn't pretty. Came out, it was a competent job, but certainly not something I'm proud of.
Well,
But
I tell you what was pretty was your Justice League Europe. Getting coming back to that, and that you landed that one. And again, JLI was hot at the time,
yeah,
like so much that Giffen and DeMatteis was like, we're going to go ahead and do this spinoff, and you got picked to be the penciler. I mean, that must have been a thrill.
well, it was sort of my reward for helping out an Invasion. This Invasion, I had 10 weeks to do the covers and 80 pages, so I had to do 8+ pages a week with all the DC characters. So that was, man. And luckily, I was young and barely slept, so I had the energy to sit there for however many hours a day was required. Um, but that's how the companies were back then. If you did them a solid, they took care of you. That's what I remember most about early Marvel and DC, at least up until they became very corporate, I guess, in the end of the '90s. They really looked out for their creators. The editors were very much, you know, this book isn't working out, so we're going to do 2 more issues of that while we get this other project ready for you. And I mean, they took care of their people, and they were very loyal. And that all went away, though, or mostly, at least in my experience.
So in 1999, you started getting credit as both writer and penciler for your Blade series with Marvel.
Hmm.
Um, Have you spent a lot of time doing both writing and penciling? And is
I,
one or the
I,
other is your preference? I know you're well known for your art.
well, initially I wanted to be a writer, but I could never read anything I wrote, and I couldn't teach myself to type. I remember I typed a page, and it took me like 2 days to type, 1 page of text just because of, hunt and peck. And I was like, so I kind of gave that up and focused more on drawing. Of course, that was, when I was a young kid, but I always had ideas, always wanted to write, always writing stuff on the side for myself. And when I was hired to do the Blade, it wasn't a movie adaptation. It was sort of a side story to kind of go with the first movie, sort of maybe. Um, the plan was to jump right from that into Blade Monthly, and they kept hiring writers that would put in proposals, and nobody at Marvel liked any of the proposals they got, nor did I. And finally, after months and months of this, and that Blade book coming out, and waiting to start Blade, I asked if I could put forth a proposal, and they said, "Yeah, why not? Everybody else has." So I put forth a proposal, and I guess they loved it and picked it. So I started writing it and drawing it. But of course, once they had the proposal picked, they put an insane schedule on it because I wanted to pencil the actual book because I love Blade. He's one of my favorite characters, always has been, and getting a chance to kind of write him and twist him into, the way I see him was awesome. But the schedule they set, there was just no way I could do it. So I ended up, I think I penciled like 4 pages, and then I did breakdowns for 2 issues or maybe 4 issues. And then I couldn't even finish the last 2 issues. So
I mean,
that, that
does
was
that
annoying.
activate like a whole other part of the brain? I mean, it seems to me that it's a whole other creative process, the writing and the illustrating, and then trying to do both
Yeah,
has to be
it's
phenomenally difficult.
it's definitely two different things. I mean, and for me at least, I compartmentalize it. Writing's writing, drawing's drawing. And I did the same thing with my scripts as I do with other people's scripts, which is, and this is one thing I learned from the master Joe Kubert himself when I attended his school was once you're handed a script as a penciler, this is now your story. You can't change the story, but you have to tell it how you tell the story in the best way you think of to tell the story. That's your job. So that the script has always been the raw material for me. Add panels, change things, move things around if necessary, just to tell the story in the way I think it best needs to be told. So that's just how I've always operated. So as when I write, I write the script out and I see visually. So I'm seeing pages as I'm writing, a comic script, anyways. And but then when I put that on my board and I start laying it out, I'm like, well, this is shit. So I change it, same as I do with every other writer. So yeah, but it's definitely a different process. I think no less hard. It's certainly faster than drawing. Even when you struggle as a writer, it's still faster than drawing. But and I guess, I mean, you start with a blank paper as a penciler, but you've got an idea of what you're drawing. So I guess the writer, I guess you still got an idea of what you're going to be writing, but you're literally starting from nothing. So,
In 2004, you and writer Christopher Priest launched a second ongoing Cap series with Captain America and the Falcon. And the credits have you and Priest listed together as storytellers, as opposed
huh,
to the typical writer penciler. Does that mean you were more involved with the story?
huh, I didn't ever realize that. I never read the credits. I have no idea, and I have no idea why. I did the same thing. I never spoke to him. I got the script in the mail, and I just started doing my thing to it. So I have no
Well,
idea why that's credited that way. Must
interesting. Well, you have been credited with co-creating the character Anti-Cap, and
really?
yeah, yeah,
I didn't know
it's
that either.
well, what is that interaction like? Working with a writer to to create a new character. I mean, obviously, he has the idea for the essence of the character, but you have the essence for the design of the character and what he would look
Yeah.
like.
Um, like I say, we never talked about it at all. He just wrote a description of this. pseudo Captain America character. And honestly, I didn't realize that was his first appearance. I thought he was an existing character. So that's all news to me. I did, his design wasn't much different from Cap. It's just his costume got torn and was darker and more black. So
But
finding
that's
out a
funny.
lot of things on this podcast.
Well, that's awesome. Usually we hear that from the listeners, but not from the guests. So that's a bonus. So, I wanted to ask you about that anti-Cap costume, right? Because you're trying to create a character that looks familiar, but not too familiar. That has certain, as you mentioned, sort of darker undertones that stand in opposition to the Cap that we know. Yeah, I mean, I was wondering what that thought process was like, but maybe it wasn't that involved after all with at least with the anti-Cap.
Honestly, with drawing comics, I mean, I do a lot of podcasts, and a lot of guys ask, what was the process behind the creation of this? And it's like somebody said something, I drew it. I mean, there's really not too many. There have been too many instances in my career. I mean, I barely talked to any of the writers I've worked with. I talked to Giffen because he would call me on the phone, and we would chat about stupid shit, and I was friends with Ron Mars, so we tend to talk every week anyways. I don't really think I talked to any other writers ever.
That's it. Well, I did notice a lot more pouches on the anti-Cap, and as a military guy, I was like, well, that right there is a telltale sign that this guy, is cut from a different cloth. So.
Yeah, and it's kind of tough because I didn't know where the story was going. I mean, I assume I got a full issue, so I only had what was going on in that issue. I didn't know where any of it was going, or if there's something that's going to come up later that I don't know to add now.
Well, we're going to ask you just a couple more questions that
Ask as many as you want.
it may be
Like
hard to
memories.
remember about Captain America and the Falcon, but when designing your look for Steve Rogers, both in and out of uniform,
this I can talk about.
You made him clearly hulking over everyone else.
Yep.
And this was a different take than the other Cap series happening in 2004. So what inspired you to go in that direction?
Well, it was how I viewed Captain America. He was a super soldier. I mean, he literally was created in a tank, with a serum that made him basically a Superman. So I thought visually he shouldn't look like a normal guy because he's not in any way a normal dude. So I just amped out everything, his neck, his cheekbones. I gave muscles on that dude.
He did, yes.
And because that's just how I felt he should look. I mean, I've always done muscle on muscle guys anyways, but Cap, I went above and beyond the Call of Duty. I thought, not quite Hulk proportions, but Hulk musculature pretty much. And I just like that feel that when you saw this guy, there's something extremely special about him. He's beyond a bodybuilder. He's beyond human. So I felt he should reflect that. And I couldn't see drawing him in his cool civilian clothes, not, without that clearly being underneath everything he's wearing.
Well, it's funny because I want to ask you about those cool civilian clothes. So I vaguely remember fashion in 2004. There were the baggy pants that were still around from the late 90s, and the oversized sweaters and the scarf. And then when I turn about 4 pages into issue 1, I see Steve Rogers in his civilian attire, and boom, that's what he's wearing, right? And Rick and I, we talk a lot on this podcast, especially when we're reviewing stories from the 70s, the 60s, the 80s, and fashion always plays a role. And I wondered, when you're drawing a character like Steve or any other characters back in 2004, do you pay particular attention to what the fashion is outside, what people are wearing, or is it just subconscious?
No, definitely. And for a main character like that, I'll spend a lot more time, finding reference for a wardrobe that I think fits what I feel his character would wear, something, I try to put as much thought into that aspect as into You know, how they stand, how they walk, how they punch. You know, it's just another tag to, silhouette that character and to make him unique and special.
Clothes make the
Yeah.
man. Right. Yeah. Also, I was wearing scarves in the late 90s. So
Oh, all right.
I
fashion
I had
scarves.
I had hair back then.
So did I.
uh, all right, got another brother on the show. Uh, so Captain America and the Falcon continues on, but after 4 issues, you left the series.
I was
Um,
only hired for 4.
so what was that? Because I know you eventually went on to Sabretooth a
Yeah.
few months later, but so was it because they did? Was it one of those things where they had the other artists working on issues 5,
Yes.
6, and 7 at the same time?
At this point, they had no confidence anybody could actually do a monthly, which I could do. But they were just hiring for story arcs. That's. I guess it started, around that time, maybe a little before, because I was at CrossGen before that, and I think they started story arcs before that because they got so tired of books being late and all the grief they got from that, and throwing in a fill-in that made no sense. So they just made 4 issue story arcs, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah,
So that's why I say
you know,
it was 4 and this was 4. I mean, that was the plan. I did this and I was right into Sabretooth, and then I went into Weapon X, but Marvel was dragging their heels on my exclusive, and DC's exclusive came through, so I quit, went to DC.
that was that for the Warlord.
Yeah,
Yeah. So let's go talk about CrossGen, right? Because
sure.
you were an artist on several series there, but you're also the art director.
Yeah,
And so you were there for a few years, and then unfortunately CrossGen kind of closed down.
yeah.
And then so I guess take us through what's it like being at a startup company like CrossGen that has all this talent in there because I mean, heck, some of these artists that left went on to have great careers doing Captain America, whether it's Steve
Yeah.
Epting or Mike
Yeah.
Perkins or and
Every
others.
artist that came into CrossGen left better.
Yeah,
All of them did. It was a I don't know, some kind of spinner. I mean, everybody got spun around and came out better at the end. It was a grinder. I mean, part of it was the studio atmosphere, which wasn't for everyone. Some people loved it like I did. Some people didn't like it so much, and uh, but you had to put your work up on the wall every day of each um, book was split into a quad. So the penciler, inker, colorist were all in one quad, and on an outside wall they each had to put up their art for the day. Because you're supposed to do a page a day, ideally, and so you walk around and see what everybody has been doing. So it was, nobody wanted to put up a page that wasn't, top notch. So it really, I think everybody just was so focused doing their work that, I mean, that's why the books were so good. At least artistically, they were all top of the line books, and I thought it was great. My first 3 months there was great. I'd go in and 8 or 9 and be done at 3, 4, or 5 and home and nothing else to do for the day. It was awesome. I love that structure. But then as I got more and more into dealing with more art directing stuff, that sweet life went away as most of my day was spent putting out fires and working with production and doing all kinds of stuff. So I would kind of pencil early in the morning and then late at night.
I think you did the first. That was
Yep.
right, and then you did the Path. At
Yep.
what point were you the art director?
Uh, about 3 months into the first, I was
Oh wow,
not
early
a
on.
name. I was an assistant art director, but I was doing a lot of the daily stuff.
Hmm.
And then eventually, after the path, Alessi just let me focus on just being art director. So my schedule eased up considerably. At that point, I didn't have to pull double duty and double hours. So
So, as art director, now we've had Mike Perkins on the show a few times. As art director, did you ever have to lay down the hammer on Mike?
no, no, not on Mike.
Yeah, he's a professional.
Really is.
Yes,
Yeah.
He is.
yes, he is.
How about Steve Epting?
Nope, never Steve either. Steve was a head down, I'm gonna do my stuff and get the heck out of here kind of guy.
Mhm.
Nope,
Uh, how about Geis?
nope, nope. Butch always got his stuff done on time, no problem.
There you go. All the cap artists.
There you go.
They,
Yeah.
they were,
Yeah.
Know what we're
Discipline.
doing.
yeah,
Self discipline.
Not just anyone can do Captain America.
That's right.
that's true. All right. Well, then you have to tell us, who was, do you have a fun story as art director of, anybody that stands out that you had a fun story with?
I got a lot of stories. I'm not sure if fun actually.
Well, what can you share here?
I'm trying to think.
So
Um,
put you on the spot.
there was a ghost at CrossGen, and Caesar, Caesar, Caesar was a colorist, and he was convinced the ghost was there, and he wouldn't work at night. He was just all out of sorts about this ghost, and so people started calling it Great Caesar's Ghost, and it was
Love it.
it was just a lot of fun, not for Caesar, but for everyone.
Uh, was this a ghost of colorist past or what?
I don't know. It was in like a strip mall kind of complex, where the studio was. So I don't know what was there before. If it was a brand new build, it's probably a brand new build.
A merry-go-round or something. Chess King. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe some. So
Indian burial ground.
yeah, some kind of burial ground or something. I don't know, but I never witnessed a ghost or anything ghost-like. But I've been told it was real. So who knows?
Who
You
But
never
knows?
know.
I guess that was a fun one.
Never know. So your ongoing Brutes and Babes articles in Wizard Magazine,
Yeah.
that helped shed some light on behind the scenes, for all comic fans, which is always fun to look into. But it also helped give tips and inspire a lot of up and coming artists. And you turned those articles into a couple of books, titled "Drawing Powerful Heroes with Bart Sears."
Yep.
And you've had a long list of artists who have credited your tutorials as helping them with their career. So what inspired you to do these tutorials and collect these into books?
Initially, um, I was involved with Wizard Magazine from very early on, before it was the first issue came out. There's the first book. It's when I've got stuff from notes and stuff I made for some changes. And I was doing covers and a bunch of stuff, and Gareb Shamus, who owned Wizard, asked me one day, this is number two. I'm actually working on number three. I've got bits and pieces of it all over there. But he asked me if I wanted to do a drawing column. And I was like, sure. And he's like, just come up with something and we'll run it. So I came up with Brutes and Babes, and I was teaching at the Kubert School at the same time, um, as this was happening, which was nice because I found I really enjoyed teaching. And one of the things I loved most about teaching was the back and forth, was questions. Um, because as you sit and draw, you don't really think about what you're doing. It's piecework. You're paid by the piece. The faster you do it, the more you get paid, essentially. And so you don't really, you just, after you're doing it, you're just doing it. You aren't even thinking about why you're making decisions. So when it came time to do the tutorials, I thought it was important to kind of explain the why. Not so much this is how you do it, but why are you making this decision? Why are you choosing this over that? That kind of thing. So that's how I kind of approached those tutorials. And that didn't come fully formed. That's as I started doing them, that's how I um, figured out kind of what I was doing. That came to me that it was more of a why than a how. And at least that's what I tried to do. And it took off in Wizard. It became their favorite, the fan favorite section of the book. And after I stopped doing it and Wizard went away, I had all these tutorials sitting around. And when I restarted Ominous Press with my business partner, we decided, why don't we revitalize these tutorials? So I updated them and expanded them and did new ones and new art and all kinds of stuff, and we put them into two books. And And it was around this time I started going back to cons because I stopped doing cons pretty much after CrossGen. And I started going back to cons in like 2017, 2018 or something like that. And I started to hear, how much people love those articles, and how much it helped them. And I was hearing this from fans and a lot of, pros alike. And pretty much to a man, their story was I cut out all the articles and stapled them together. So I had my own book of Brutes and Babes articles. And I've heard that 2,000 times if I've heard it 10 times. I mean, it's very common. And, it was then that I realized how lucky I was and how uh, kind of humbling it was that it had such an effect on people, because I'm just trying to do something, I don't really know what the heck I'm doing, especially when I started doing them. So to see that it actually made sense to people and they got some kind of information from there that helped them, in some way, it was pretty special. I was pretty lucky. So I've embraced it more and more over the years, and now I'm working on the third one. So we'll start kickstarting that next month.
Some people I think are just cut out. They enjoy teaching, they like doing, but teaching has a certain reward in and of itself.
Yeah.
And being able to connect with students like that, I think is is a gift. So to have that influence on folks and then continue to be able to inspire and inform them with these tutorials. Really, I mean, it's a legacy.
Thanks, man.
So speaking of babes, uh, one thing that you also have a little part in your career was Penthouse Comix.
Yep.
And so this was in the 90s. And man, did Penthouse get some huge names, right?
They paid a lot of money.
And typically they obviously went for the artists that knew how to draw babes, right? So there was you,
Yeah.
there was Adam Hughes, Kevin McGuire, Beecham, and a whole bunch of others. Um, yeah, I mean, listen, you're doing storytelling, right? But this is more R-rated stuff, right? Because of what Penthouse allowed. Um,
They, I
I,
used to
I'm
get it with X, but
I
all
read it
right.
for the art. Yeah.
I don't know what is it? What's the saying? I don't know what obscenity is, but I know what I like. Whatever.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Uh, but how did you get into that? And then do you have any funny stories at conventions afterwards where people are like, I want to do can you do this character from Penthouse Comics or something like that?
there's a lot of that. And it didn't take Penthouse Comics for guys to ask for stuff. Oh yeah. But it was Keith that got me in. Keith started writing for him, and they were like, "Who can we get? Can we get Bart?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I think that's how Adam got in, and everybody is because Keith was a conduit. Um, but the funniest stories I have is I'd send in pages, and the editor would call me and be like, "What did you do?" I was like, "It's just drawing what Keith wrote." He's like, "But you're adding a lot of stuff." I'm like, "Well, it's what's implied." So they he's like, every time your pages come in, they go right around the office. You're like, what did he do? What did he do? So I thought that was funny. I thought I was just doing what I was supposed to, but I always try to go above and beyond. So I guess I did. And it actually just this year I've been hired to do 2 penthouse like properties. So one for Raid Studio, which I can't remember what that was called. And now, pardon what? Fealty, which is part of their, I guess they do a yearly anthology, and then one for David Hedgecock called Sugar Bomb, which is a lot of fun. I'm actually working on that now. It's there's a lot in it, but it's they were like, "We love your penthouse stuff. Can you do it like that?" I'm like, "All right." So
Lot of detail.
not as over the top as penthouse.
Yeah. All right. So, listeners, from what you may have heard, was Bart's wife Michelle, who, off camera, she yelled an answer, and Michelle's a lovely lady. I had the chance to meet her at OAX. And as I mentioned previously about all the different artwork that is laid out on Bart's table, among the artwork is a portfolio or two that has some R-rated stuff in it, you know, and I got to tell you, so I'm going through different portfolios, and I grabbed that one, and I'm going through it, and then Michelle's standing right there, and I got to tell you, I'm just as a little uncomfortable. I'm like, oh, all right, I'm going to put this one down. Let me go over here to the Marvel stuff.
I'll be back.
When are you going to lunch, Michelle?
Well, we do have a few questions from some of our listeners,
Awesome.
Bart. And first one is from Mark Domeyer, who asked, Bart, you draw very sculpted characters, which I really enjoy. I think about your art on Exo Man o' War from Valiant Comics and wonder if or how much you think about other characters you've drawn when starting a new assignment. Do you form the base of a character from another one that you have drawn previously and then differentiate the finer details? Or do you start from scratch?
Start from scratch. It all starts from body type and how I view them moving. I used to say, I can see the figure in my head and I can turn around, it can move, it can do all this stuff. And I can do that. And that's where I start to visualize how this character is going to stand, what's their body shape, how are they more lean, more muscled, are they slim waisted, are they thick waisted, whatever that is. I will say when I first started drawing women, my first job for Marvel in 1985 was drawing biker chicks. And when I got into comics, I did not want to draw women. I did not want to draw bikes, motorcycles in any way. And I didn't want to do a team book. So first
So
job
early
I
on in
made,
your career.
it's women and motorcycles. I'm like, oh. So and I hadn't really drawn a lot of women. I grew up reading Tarzan and Conan. I love Batman. That's what I was drawing. I wasn't, a babe artist. And when I first started drawing women, I draw a guy and then make it a woman because I really I wasn't comfortable drawing women. So it took a while till I was comfortable seeing women in my head like I did guys and moving them around and changing their body types and all kinds of stuff like that. But for normal characters now, I just come at them from whatever my brain tells me about that character.
Have you always had that capability to see visually in your head figures? Because not everyone has that. I mean,
I think so. I mean, I sculpted a lot with clay, and I love sculpting. I It's one of my favorite things that I never do. I was lucky when I got to Heatwave, which was uh, a video game company I worked for. One weekend I was bored and I was out there without my family. It was in Austin, Texas. My family still lived in Florida. And I got some clay and I sculpted one of the characters I was designing and brought it into work Monday. And they were like, you're going to do maquettes for everything, which of course never really worked out either. But I ended up doing a couple. And it was a lot of fun. I loved it. And I just love sculpting. So I've always seen things three-dimensionally. And that's how I try to, you know, draw my stuff. I'm not a big guy on realistic lighting and double lighting and all that stuff to make things look, photo real. I don't I don't particularly like that. I see comic books as, superheroes and fantasy. So I draw them, as superheroes and fantasy. I dive into that 9 head tall figure, which, maybe some basketball players are, but that's about it as far as humans go. So I lean more that way. And I think the sculpting really helped build how I construct figures and see figures from an early age.
uh, when you say that early on that you weren't comfortable drawing women and you would draw men and then change them into women,
Yeah.
it how did you do that with Power Girl? Because early on in your career, right, you were
Well, I
drawing
think,
Justice League Europe. Granted, she had some muscles.
yeah. Well, by then I was several hundred comic pages in. I don't know how many exactly, but I'd done a lot of comic work. So I'd kind of worked through that uncomfortability, then whatever it was that I was not comfortable drawing women. So by the time I got to Justice League, it was pretty much just straight women. I did find out that Helper, because of course, I dove in fully, and Wally Wood famously would draw her breasts larger every issue subtly. So I was doing that with Wonder Woman. And what I didn't realize, because I never really looked at the books when they came out, is whenever pages would get in, and Helper would take out his number 2 pencil, erase her boobs, and draw them smaller. I was like, what? I found that out like in issue, I don't know, 20 or something. I'm like, you're kidding me. It's like, no, I've been doing it for long. I'm like, butthead, but probably a good thing.
We have another listener, a patron of the show, Aaron Paul. He asks, Bart, your details and layouts are crazy, and I, like many fans, appreciate the detail in your work. In 2025, I like to keep a tight budget when it comes to my pull list, but I make the exception for eye-catching variant covers. Do you have any characters you would like to do some variant cover work on?
Hmm. Let's see. Um, I really don't honestly like doing covers. I like doing interiors, but I do a million covers. I just started working with Conan, so I just did a cover for them that will be out. I don't know exactly when that's coming out, but and it won't. I don't think it's a variant cover. I think it's just a main cover. But I don't know if I have too many variants coming out in 2025. What I'd like to do, tell you, I'd like to do an Invincible variant. That'd be awesome.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I
Now,
love
now,
Ryan stuff.
yeah, Ryan Ollie, he draws Invincible more slender.
Yeah,
But that's not your style. How, or
I don't
you
know.
think
I drew Spider Woman. She was pretty tiny. When I draw Spider Man,
that's
he's
true?
not too all whacked out, and so it just depends on the character. I mean, if I got a chance to make a superhero a big tough guy, I'd do it. But maybe that's what I've been hired to do. Like when I did Dark Knight 2021 and or 21, 22, and 23, I decided to draw Batman how people would remember him rather than maybe how he realistically was. So I made him, and I guess he kind of was pretty Dark Knighty. Frank Miller, big, kind of lunky Dark Knight. But that was my thought process for him there. But no, I've done some Invincible sketches, and commissions. It's pretty slender.
What's one of the more popular commission requests that you get?
Power Girl, she's really popular. Wolverine, a lot of Wolverine requests. Um, I get a lot of strange requests. Like a guy really wanted to see my take on The Rifleman, that old 60s TV show.
Yeah, wow.
And I just did a V for Vendetta at this last convention. And, I get a lot of requests for Blade sometimes. Uh, Sometimes Captain Atom. A few Batmans. I'm trying to think. I think probably Wolverine is the most requested, though.
We have one last listener question from
Okay.
Carlo Olivar, and he asks first of all, I'm thankful for your body of work. Discovered you through Wizard Magazine and enjoyed all your covers and columns. Always wanted to see your take on Cap and was elated to see you on Cap and Falcon. I would like to know more about who your artistic influences are and if you have a preferred inker. By the way, hoping to see you work on an Avengers title with Cap.
That'd be cool. Love to do that. Let's see. My early influences were John Buscema, big time influence, and I loved Conan, so that didn't hurt. Neil Adams, of course. I got into Byrne when he was doing Iron Fist. That's when I saw his stuff, and I was like, "Wow, this stuff's really cool, really different." And Ross Andrew. And if you look at Ross Andrews' stuff and how he poses figures and different things, you'll see a lot of that what I do, which I didn't really realize until later years. But I always loved Ross Andrews stuff. Jim Aparo, um, and Frazetta. I grew up on. I got one of his painting books when I was a kid, and his covers are on all the Conan stuff. So I just fell in love with that. Any of his comic art I could find, I loved. and Little Abner, just great stuff. And, but those are definitely my early influences.
And did you have a preferred inker over the years?
Uh, Randy Elliott, you know, did awesome work on me. I brought him into Justice League um, when we were looking for a new inker, and that worked out great. He followed with me through to Exo and Turok and some Conan stuff later on. Mark Pennington, he's got his own unique take. I like his because he doesn't, I always say tracing, but he always puts his own spin on it, pretty much no matter what lines you put down, which is great. I love seeing that. Um, Rob Hunter did a great job on Cap Falcon. Fortunately, he got fired because he was slow, and I had to finish out the inks myself. And I tried a few pages to try to keep up that rendering stuff, but that was just taking too long. So that's why the last half of the book, a lot of the rendering drops out because I just didn't have time to do both. And the those are the big ones that come to mind. I would always go to. Andy Smith did a great job too. He's a super slick, super fine inker. He did he did the first at CrossGen and a bunch of other stuff. Did a lot of my ominous press work.
Didn't I seem to recall back in the day, because I had a store, a comic shop back in the day, and I seem to recall, wasn't there a, a book, was it Exo? I don't remember, but it was like you did one and then Andy did one and then
Yeah,
you did one, and his style, he was trying to emulate you as best as possible to keep the flow of the book
yeah.
looking the same.
Well, that's why he was hired when they decided to do EXO two times a month. Um, I was smart enough at that point in my career not to agree to do it. Like my first time at Valiant, but and it was when Acclaim bought it with Earthquake, and to keep the book from being jarring as the story's passing, it just made sense to bring Andy in since his stylistically at that point was very close to what I did. So that just made sense. So that's how that worked.
Wasn't he a student of yours at Kubert?
Yep. Yeah. Well, he actually wasn't my student. He was a third year. I taught second year, but he jumped out of his class every Friday when I taught and just sat in my class all day. So, and I taught him on the side and gave him pointers and tips and went over his work,
Right.
stuff like that.
So what else is keeping you busy nowadays, Bart? Are there any projects coming up, or can you,
Yep.
anything you can share with the listeners?
Well, we've got Michelle and I. She created and we co-wrote and I drew Maiden for heavy metal. And think we've found a publisher for that moving forward. So we got to get into that a little bit coming up. We've got another property that we're waiting for a contract on from another publisher called Dreadlands, and hopefully that'll materialize soon. I started on, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Ripaverse, but uh, that's a company that Eric July, who's a rapper and he loves comics, started, and they sell everything online. He sells millions of dollars worth of books. And I did a short story called Salvage PI for him last year, and I just started on a graphic novel of that. And Sugar Bomb on the first story of that. Hopefully there'll be more of those. And Drawing Powerful Comics 3, which we're kickstarting, next month. And they're bringing back the Cops toys, so I started doing some work for them.
Oh, very cool. And what are you doing with Conan?
Well, I signed a contract to do covers and interiors, and I've done one cover, and we'll figure out what story I'm going to do and how that's going to work out. We get more into it.
Very cool. And everybody should go and visit bartsearsart.com because there's a lot of cool information on there. There's some previous blogs, but also you get a chance to take a look at his portfolio. And there's a really cool shop on there. So you could buy prints, you can buy art, you could buy sketch covers, the books that Bart mentioned. They're all there on the website as well. So that's bartsearsart.com. But Bart, where if people just want to follow you to see when you've got new stuff coming out, what's the best way to do that?
Instagram, um, Facebook, and Blue Sky, Bart Sears Art. And I do have a Patreon I just started a few months ago, which is Bart Sears Art at Patreon, however that label is. So, and Patreon's where, I talk about and show the stuff I'm working on currently. Um, Instagram and Facebook is usually older stuff or more public facing stuff.
And if someone wants to reach out to you about a commission, what's the best way to do that?
Just email me through the website, which is bartsearsart@gmail.com.
Fantastic. Yeah, I do recommend checking out because there's a lot of cool stuff on there still from many years past. As I had mentioned before, I picked up something at the OAX, which is this preliminary cover
Yep.
to Captain America and the Falcon #1. So this is just a version. One of your thoughts before that, and there was
Yep.
probably like 3 or 4 others there that I
Yeah.
didn't pick up, and so they're pretty reasonably priced too.
Glad you liked it.
Absolutely.
What's this up? I work
Uh,
on a light box. So I have preliminary drawings and pencils and everything for probably 70% of what I've done.
well, again, everybody check out bartsearsart.com. Bart, got to say, it's been a lot of fun rapid cap with you.
Well, I've had a blast too, man. I appreciate it. Uh,
Yeah.
I
All right.
Cap's one of my second or third favorite superheroes. I mean, I'm definitely Cap over Iron Man. So
All right. Team Cap. I
my
always
wife,
love hearing that.
Team Iron Man. But yeah, I love Cap.
All
I was
right. Well,
I would have loved to do that book monthly, but that wasn't in the cards.
there's,
Monthly
well,
books are in the cards
someday,
anymore.
someday, right?
Yeah, it's always someday.
Okay, Bob, I got to say, Bart was uh, really informative.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize how much that time that he had spent on the Wizard World or the Wizard magazine, and which translated into his Brutes and Babes, and he's leaving not only his art is incredible that he's
Mhm.
done over decades, but he's leaving a lasting legacy with the training and inspiration that he's doing for other artists.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was really looking forward to talking to him about his work on Captain America and Falcon, right? Because that doesn't get a lot of love. It's a little bit like sort of parallel to what's going on in the main Cap mythos, and it does bear going back and taking a look at that and re-enjoying that. So I was looking forward to talking to him about that, but I really enjoyed hearing about his contributions on the Wizard magazine and his mentoring of future generations of artists. That stuff I didn't really know, and maybe a lot of folks don't. Maybe some do, but I really enjoy that because you're right. He's leaving a legacy that is going to survive him in so many ways.
Yeah, and speaking of Captain America art that he's done, he shared with me a whole bunch of prelims that of Captain America that he had done, and I'm gonna post those in the Facebook group. So make sure you go to our Facebook group, and if you're not a member of that yet, make sure you check that out. Just go into Facebook and type Cap comic book fans and then join the group. To join the group, now you'll get asked a few questions, and you do need to agree to our rules. And one of the rules, which is really, really important, is rule number 2, and that is no negativity. So it is an oasis away from all the negativities out there on social media. It's a fun group to be in. So I'll be sure to post those prelims that Bart shared with us.
Man, I'm looking forward to seeing those. That's going to be exciting.
All right, Bob. Next episode, make sure everybody come back for the next chapter in the Captain America Becomes Nomad series. We're going to be doing part 7, which is Captain America 182. Came out in 1974. And if you're a little behind, make sure you go back and listen to part 6. That was in episode 248.
I love this series, Rick. We're having a lot of fun with the Nomad series, so you don't want to miss it, listeners.
Absolutely. Oh, and by the way, if you were uh, uh, listening to this and you were like, "Hey, there are people who sent in questions that for Bart. How do I get in on that?" That's simple. You just need to become a supporter of the show, and for I think it's what $5 a month, which is the cost of a comic book. You can support the show, and not only do you get to find out who our guests are going to be on the show prior, but you also get to submit a question to the guest, as well as you get some other cool perks. None less cool than our "What Would Cap Do" challenge coin. So we send this out after you've been a supporter of the show after 3 months, as well as a lot of other perks. And if you want to learn about those perks, just go to buymeacoffee.com/Cap Comic Fans. And also, if you want to have your question just answered at the end of an episode, you can email us at capcomicfans@gmail.com. And as always, we appreciate you rating, reviewing, and subscribing wherever you listen to us. Bob, any final words?
I just can't wait to next week, Rick. It's always a joy to be with you and with our listeners.
All right. He's Bob Lucius. I'm Rick Verbanis. And you have been listening to another episode of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast.